One good example of this would be Counter-Strike. That was originally a mod for Half-Life. But another good example would be something like Dota was a mod that Dota 2 and uh, League of Legends are pretty heavily based on. The thing is, when you have that as your kind of like guiding star, there's still balancing issues and things like that, but um, you kind of know what you're trying to get to. So, for example, like Valorant is a game that's pretty heavily based on Counter Strike. You can see in the style of the game, but even in like the pricing and things like that, of the the weapons that you buy, you see, and it's like they're not trying to mess with that really. It's like that's already been figured out in the meta. You know, that the T side has AKs and the CT side has the M4 style gun, and they're kind of priced that way. It has trade-offs, and it's not to say that it's perfectly balanced, but it's just sort of what the meta of that style of game is. Like in the same way that there's like 3 outs in baseball. There's the AK costs whatever it costs in CS. Um, You don't get that with Overwatch, though. What's interesting about Overwatch is Blizzard invented that out of whole cloth. And you could say maybe that it was inspired by or based on, in some way, Team Fortress 2. And there's maybe some elements there, or like pick and choose other games, but really they kind of went and did their own thing. And while I think there were a lot of advantages to doing that, it was cool that we got to see that style of game. I think you see in the development of the balancing and the meta over the years with Overwatch, the trade-off there that they didn't have the mod to go back to in any real material way to say like, oh well, here's just this weird balancing thing in the meta and we're just gonna leave it there. It made the game pretty hard to play, honestly, for me at least. In a lot of games, you sort of accept what's overpowered and a meta develops, and that's just kind of the way it is, but that's the way that you learn to play the game. Some positions are just better than others. If you go and watch interviews with the Counter-Strike developers, they talk about this, where it's like, it drives us crazy that no one will use the SMGs. It's like, well, they kind of, fit in a weird spot price-wise. And I think at one point they may have even tried to kind of mess with things there. They may still talk about it. But in Overwatch, you would see a more extreme version of that, where, the game would just get rebalanced over and over again. In a way that it's like, it's almost what Overwatch is kind of like, it's hard to define that genre because it kind of was a couple different games over a couple different years, and it probably is another game again today with it being Overwatch 2. I know there's like a new meta around like only one tank and things like that. It sounds fairly different, some of the same heroes. But it may be very fun as well. But I don't know. It's an interesting effect of it being a completely new IP rather than something that was developed out of a mod